seen him for a while.
Well, Mike Shady is a much improved player, Chris. He bowled on the tour for almost 3 years, touted very highly coming out of college, a college All-American, and he just couldn't seem to cut it big time on the tour, so he went home to pursue other businesses. Right now, he's making basically a cameo performance here at the Erie Tournament, visiting his in-laws on spring break. His wife, a school teacher, and he's making the most of it. First shot.
Leaving a 2-pin. It had to be a shot that he was happy to get out of his repertoire.
Well, he sends it wide, and the trust is a must or your game is a bust. The late Billy Waylude coined that phrase, and he definitely trusted that. Breaks down to 2-8, leaves himself probably the simplest spare we have in bowling, the 2-pin for a right-hander. Good opening frame, nothing lost here.
His last television was in 1993. He was 4th in Grand Rapids.
Well, as that article that we saw, that little update stated, here's a true gentleman, but he's a very powerful man. He's got his bench press up to about 250, trained solid weights, and a streak player. He can get red hot.
Powerful ball. Gee. Okay, once again, Erie's own Bob Learn Jr.
Well, Steve, you're one of the hottest bowlers on tour this year. You've got 15 out of 16 match plays in a row. Your 3rd TV show, no wins on TV. What's going on out there?
Well, I don't know. I think it's just a little bit of a combination of a little bit of bad luck and a few bad shots at the wrong times. But, you know, I keep getting here. I've gotten a lot of help from Brunswick to get this far every week, and it's going to change sooner or later.
Well, I agree. You know, last year, Parker Bone, he had a tough run of it. Came out this year, went back-to-back. I think you'll see a lot more of Steve Giles.
Okay, Bob Learn Jr. Good job. And it's a great job with George-Branham-III.
And Bob had a good point, Chris. As remember, Walter Ray Williams Jr. just went through 3 years of disaster, couldn't beat him himself on television. Then he won the tournament here a few years back, and he's been red hot since. So it's a confidence thing. Until you've stood out there in the shoes, you have no coach, no timeout, nobody to help you. It's tough to get your confidence.
4, 6, 7, 10, and there isn't much to be said about it.
Well, Mike Shady, who has a PBA win under his belt. He won in Dublin, California, Earl Anthony's bowling center. And he beat Parker Bone, one of the great players on tour. But he hasn't been out here on a steady basis, and it's a lot tougher when you're under those TV lines.
So here's an open frame. Mike Shady bowled here last year. Coming back home to his wife's hometown.
Mike, one of the touted college players. He won the 1985 national championship when he was at the University of Wisconsin lacrosse, then got a 3-year scholarship under the tutelage of Bill Straub at Nebraska and went on to be a 3-time All-American. He needs to draw on some of that experience right now.
Yeah, that's good. Fans here now. Listen to him. So supportive. Trying to get behind him to get him rolling.
Well, this is a really good shot. Normally you'll carry this shot. The 5 drives over, but the 4-pin was nailed by the 7, the head pin coming off the sidewall, and he doesn't get the strike, ends up with a spare.
We're in Erie, Pennsylvania, 3rd largest in this huge state. It's also the hometown of Fred Biletnikoff, one of the finest football ends I ever watched play the game. Three-bagger now for Branham here in his 2nd game, and that one brought a smile.
Well, you see the chiseled body of Branham. A lot of it just from working out all the time, has good personal habits, and once again, I said a streak player. You won't see a guy in better positions. Look at this position of setup. Look at the position of his hand, and watch as he comes through the ball. Absolutely ideal.
3, 6, 10 on the left.
The only flaw I've seen in George's game today is being a little bit tentative when he could put a player away. He had Jaros on the ropes in the first match and got an open frame here on the left-hand lane. Here he has Shady out on the ropes in the early going and hits high and leaves the 3-6-10. Makes the spare.
But you have a good view of it too, believe me, because we have the best cameraman going. And we welcome one back after a 10-week absence, Frank Malchiori, out with an illness which he whipped, and we're glad. Frank's always on the camera that shoots Bo and me from the front.
And I see a grin on his face as you see no grin on the face of Mike Shady. He's confused. He looks like he settled down during that commercial, made a pretty good shot. Remember the right-hand lane a little bit tighter than the left. He was wide with that shot, and he has an easy spare.
Okay, last year the hero here, 282 average, Bob Learn Jr.
Well, guys, I have Walter Ray Williams down here. He's made the show 6 out of 7 years here in Erie. He's always bowled great. He's definitely the crowd favorite. Lanes are a little difficult out there today. Are you going to go with your straight game or your hook game today?
Well, I used my hook game quite a bit in the tournament, but it looks like they're very tough out there. I'm thinking I'm going to go with my A game, which is right up and at them, and hopefully I can shoot a couple of big games to put these guys away.
I got a feeling he's going to figure out what to do, Chris.
That's so. Thanks, Bob. There is Mike Shady's first strike in 5 frames.
Well, Chris, George gets the ball a little left to target, and that's one of the no-nos on the PBA Tour. And he needs to get the ball between the 3-pin and have it deflect into the 10. The easiest way to convert that split. But once again, no oil help or no pull area on the PBA Tour in the center of the lane this year.
Oh, shot.
And that makes even spares tougher. We've seen a lot of open frames so far this year on ABC. Doesn't quite get the deflection. Now there's some schools of thoughts here. Can you use a 12 or 13 pound ball and convert that? Yes, he would have gotten the deflection to make it. However, the 16-pound ball drives through and has tightened up this match. George only leads by 21.
Roger! Got up quickly and did perfection. Today at 4:30, 3:30 Central on ABC's Wide World of Sports. You'll see the Valvoline Professional Boxing Series featuring a 12-round IBF junior featherweight bout between Vuyani Bunju and Kennedy McKenney. Then it's the Santa Anita Derby presented by Visa. And on Wide World Classic, the Harlem Globetrotters. 4:30, 3:30 Central.
Now, baby.
Big double for the Cornhusker.
Chris, I'm going to give you a little tip on that Santa Anita Derby. You have one filly in the race. It's Sharp Cat, and I think the boys will all be chasing the girl there. I think it's a one-horse race.
Great. Well,
I know you like that horse race.
oh, I really do.
Now, you could make this a close race right here. If he can get a 3rd consecutive strike, Branham's lead would only be 1 pin. 7th frame.
Yes! That's a 3-bagger. And the little cheerleaders from Harbor Creek are up and cheering.